Leave a like if Cloud9 should keep Inters on the roster. I'm here to provide some propaganda in favor of the man who's anchoring for Cloud9, but doesn't have the stats to back him up. He doesn't do any social media. He doesn't really do many interviews. He's not a guy who is going to win the hearts of the fans. And if you haven't been watching the games, HLTV is all he's got going for him, and it's not looking great on HLTV. But I'm here to tell you why he's the guy who doesn't need to be targeted right now. He's not the problem with Cloud9, in my humble opinion. Cloud9 should try to keep Inters and keep that energy going. What I'm trying to say here, when we compare anchors, we talk about Inters, we talk about, everyone loves to talk about Perfecto, right? Always Perfecto, but you know what? Perfecto's stats are not shimmering either, all right? We're not exactly splitting hairs. Inters is slightly lower than someone like Perfecto, someone like Nitro, someone like Shush. Everyone gets their stats actually on Heroic, which is pretty cool. And honestly, I think if Cloud9 weren't so rigid, you would have Inters get more stats as well. Inters, in terms of his aim, keeping up with all his duels, there are better players in the world, but we do see him make good decisions, right? Drop doesn't have good stats. You see him make good decisions. Nitro, the stats are bad and the decisions are not always right there. Apex, stats are not good, decisions, they could be better. Can we agree on that? Can we be honest about that? Because if you're playing Beyond Mirage and you go 8-8, you actually did a pretty good job. And at the end of the year, you're going to have a below 1.0 rating because you mostly died and you barely got the chance to get kills. He's playing on the most rigid team as a normally site anchor and has a really good KAST. And if you watch the team play, it doesn't feel like Inters is the reason that they're losing games, right? When we talk about why Inters is getting cut right now, would you say it's because of stats? Because I would say it's because of the Rio Major. And I think that everything else is noise. When we look at them playing that quarterfinal versus Mouse, I wasn't thinking about Inters not fragging when I was watching that match. We're talking about a team that choked. All right, we are talking about a team that choked and nothing else. And when we talk about a team that chokes, we talk about TSM Kerrigan 2015 to Astralis, all the chokings, all the top fours, never winning. We look at Cloud9 in the exact same position. We're talking about Shiro and Exile, top 3 and 4 in the world. The next closest pair to that is Nico and Monasi, 5 and 7, and then Brokey and Rops at 6 and 8, and they were on a team that didn't make any roster moves, should have only gotten better, and did up until the point of Dallas, and then had that disappointing exit towards the end of the year. Everybody else was getting things going by the end of the year. Even G2 won a goddamn event. They haven't won an event in 3 years. You can count the gray hairs on Hunter's beard. Cloud9 should be going deeper and should be winning more. I think everybody knows that. And when I talk about the choke and I talk about Kerrigan back in the day, I'm talking about IGLs. And I think as an IGL, when we look at the choke, it feels like to me that's Nafany's got to put that largely on his shoulders. You know, when you have someone like Shiro who had his 146 kills in 3 maps in the challenger stage and just kept fragging, like his freaking life depended on it all the way, map after map, and Exile is right there contributing tons. Excellence. And yet they won their one tournament and didn't look convincing throughout the rest of the year. Is that because Inters has a few points rating lower on HLTV than some of the other anchors? Is it because he's making really bad decisions? Because I don't really see that. I think that this is a team thing. Am I calling for Nafany's head? I'm not calling for Nafany's head. I said they shouldn't make a roster move. They should get better. But I do think there needs to be a change of affect with Nafany and the team, basically the psychology side of things. Talking to Maui about this, he said that he believed Cloud9 were one roster move away from becoming Astralis in 2017. Their TSM 2016 with Kerrigan choking. They got Glaive. They started to win everything. So Maui said, change out Nafany. And for me, I always had trouble with that because Nafany's a better player than Kerrigan was at the time as an individual. But as an IGL, of course, everyone knew Kerrigan was one of the best, top 3, whatever, okay, as he always has been. Now, this is a lot of conjecture on my part. Sorry, I'm going to be an armchair psychologist here, okay, for a second. I see Nafany come into interviews sometimes, and he is very deadpan, focused on the match, and talking about only focusing on our own game. We're going to grind through this. We have no expectations. We don't know who's going to win, but we're going to march forward, foot after foot, brick by brick, and get to the finish line and win. And in all of that, you see dead set on this one goal. And in my opinion, I see a little fear. When I see someone not willing to be loose at all in that moment, and then they lose in the fashion that they did to a team like Mousesports, I have to wonder if he fears himself in the big moments. We see the tools, the ability ability to play a round out to a level of Counter-Strike that I have never seen in terms of how detailed and delicate a lot of their T rounds are. But when it comes to psychologically and the way that they lose in these big events and the way that we forget about those stories as we move on to talk about some of the better teams that have just won everything. It's just, you know, so many different winners this year, so competitive that it takes attention away from Cloud9. But this very could have easily been, in my opinion, a year that we only talk about Cloud9. And I think this has more to do with Nafany than it does of Inters, and that's why I'm making this video. So you tell me if I'm nuts. I think Inters, yes, a little bit poor on the stats, but mostly getting scapegoated. I think he gets cut because of the psychological failure at these big events. And I think Nafany has to be able to be comfortable bending but not breaking. That's my last point here, okay? I'm taking some liberties and I apologize about, you know, me reading into someone's emotional state and things like that. We're just watching this entertainment. It's just for fun. It's for the fans. If you can't talk about what we want to talk about, why are we talking? Why are we even watching the games? Okay? All right? Okay, anyways, if you want to be a great IGL, I think you can't be afraid of what you become when things get dark. That's something that Cloud9 need, and that's something I don't see. Let me know if you think I'm crazy in the comments below. If you think Inter should be cut, leave a like. If you think he shouldn't be cut, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.